Coming up, State of Business, sponsored by
QHD quality video streaming Samaga. Internet like a boss. SLT Mobitel Fiber.
IWS Aviation.
Hello there, welcome to State of Business on our television. I am Pumita Katukampala. Let's look at the headlines for today. The $500 million international sovereign bond has been paid, central bank governor says. And the current healthy trend at the CSE will continue this year as well, CSE Chairman predicts. And now news in detail. CBSL Governor Ajit Cabral said yesterday that the $500 million international sovereign bond, which matured on the same day, was paid. The governor also said that any dollar shortage at banks will be covered by the central bank, as it is bound to do so. The governor had earlier stated that the required forex was allocated for the $500 million ISB. The rating agencies Moody's, Fitch and S&P had downgraded Sri Lanka's sovereign rating, fueling skepticism of debt default as well as raised concerns over debt repayment capacity. The $500 million ISB was part of the nearly $7 billion total debt repayment scheduled for this year. Another international sovereign bond worth $1 billion will be maturing in July. The government, as well as the CBSL, consistently insisted that Sri Lanka will not default but continue to maintain its record of honouring debt commitments. Sri Lanka has repaid ISBs worth $2 billion in 2020 and 2021, whilst overall debt repayment amounted to approximately $6 billion in the past 2 years. Sri Lanka faces $25 billion in sovereign foreign currency obligations until 2026. Meanwhile, the Purchasing Managers Index compiled by the CBSL shows that in December the country's manufacturing and services sector expanded due to seasonal demand for food and beverage manufacturing. The CBSL said manufacturing activity sustained expansion on a month-on-month basis in December 2021, recording an index value of 58.1, driven by the expansion in new orders and production. According to the central bank, except for employment, which remained low, all other sub-indices had increased during December. New orders and production in the manufacture of textile and apparel sector showed slow gains. The stock of purchases increased slower when compared to the increases in new orders and production. The CBSL says that while there is interest in preparing for the Chinese New Year holidays, many have faced import-related issues. Supplier delivery time was also lengthened during December 2021. Among the major causes were port congestions, increased orders ahead of the Chinese New Year, and a local raw materials shortage. As improvements in the local and global economic environment are anticipated, it is expected that the manufacturing activities will remain their current level. The central bank also said that Purchasing Managers Index for the services sector edged up to a strong index value of 62.5 in December 2021. This increase was facilitated by the growth observed in new businesses, business activities, employment and expectations for activity sub-indices. Compared to the previous month, new businesses rose in December with improvements observed across most of the subsectors. Business activity in the services sector indicates strong growth in December in accordance with the sustained improvement in demand with normalized economic activity and the festive season. Improvements were witnessed across more subsectors, the most significant of which were observed in financial services, wholesale and retail trade, transportation and other personal activity subsectors. Activity in the accommodation and food and beverage subsectors also recorded significant improvements due to the festive season and growth in international tourist arrivals. Employment in the sector rose in December as positive developments in business activity prompted companies to expand their workforce. Expectations regarding business activity in the next 3 months improved in December as is supported by positive perceptions anchored in the continuity of relaxed pandemic restrictions. Stay tuned for more news after this short break.
Alexa, get me some extra GB.
For the first time in Sri Lanka, manage your SLT Mobitel home services with an Alexa device or the app.
Connecting you with the latest tech.
SLT Mobitel, the connection.
But if she doesn't lay eggs, she'll have to go. UHD quality video streaming. Internet like a boss. SLT Mobitel Fiber.
Welcome back to the program. Colombo Stock Exchange Chairman Dumit Fernando predicts that the current healthy trend at the CSE will continue this year as well, with more listings and higher market capitalization. CSE Chairman Fernando expressed these thoughts at a media briefing held in Colombo recently.
The fundamental job of a stock exchange in any country is to act as a place where you can facilitate raising of capital that can be used for productive purposes by companies by raising that capital from the savings of investors. So capital raising is the first, and our stakeholder there are the corporates. Secondly, a very important part of the survival of any market is the investor base. So that is our second stakeholder group, and we'll talk about how things went for that group. And finally, we are an organization that is, even though we have a responsibility running a national financial infrastructure, beyond that, we are an organization that feels like we have a responsibility for the public at large. So we'll talk about the value addition we have done to the state and the public as well. So very quickly, for the first stakeholder group, which is issuers or corporates, last year was a record year. Over 120 billion rupees of capital to help companies grow was raised through the Colombo Stock Exchange. About 39 billion of that came from the equity asset class, and about 85 billion came from debt capital raising. This was a record year.
Stock market chairman Dumit Fernando also said that every single initial public offering launched last year was oversubscribed on the very first day, stamping credibility of the stock exchange. CSE chairman also added that the factor clearly showed investor confidence in the corporate sector.
The rapid rise in the number of equity listings. We had 13 IPOs. These are IPOs through subscription as opposed to through introduction. That means these companies actually came to the stock market for the first time and raised new capital to provide growth capital for themselves. Now, if you see in historical context, that is also a record. We had some exceptional IPOs. One of the notable items or facts from the IPOs last year was that every single one of the 13 IPOs we had was oversubscribed on the very first day. I'll repeat that. Every single IPO was oversubscribed on the very first day of subscription. So that shows you the demand and the belief in the corporate sector. It shows the credibility we have been able to build in the stock exchange over the last 12 to 18 months. And then there were 14 new companies who also listed debt on the exchange for a grand total of 28 companies. And this far exceeded the aggressive internal targets we set for ourselves.
Now, Chief Executive Officer of the CSE, Rajiv Bandaranaike, said that investors have increased since the COVID-19 pandemic as they see more listings and more new account openings last year. He also said that 37,000 new CDS accounts last year were opened, and over 80% of them were from outside the Western Province, as against 57% open outside the Western Province in 2020.
You can't regulate really crypto, but they are looking to create a proper ecosystem and a framework within which blockchain can be accommodated in Sri Lanka as a technology, and those are the currently that's the project that is put into place. From a CSE perspective, yes, it can be a competing asset class right now, because some of the money that can potentially come into equities may be going into other forms of investments through cryptos, etc. But we still feel, given the equities and the interest among particularly the youngest segment of people, Dumit referred to 30,000 accounts last year. It's interesting to see that about 80% of those that were opened through technology, through mobile apps, and a vast majority, maybe close upon again another 80%, were below 40 years of age. So that's a shift that we are seeing from earlier, where we traditionally had a 50+ kind of investor in the equity market, but we are now seeing a younger generation coming in. And the second shift we have seen is the broad basing of it. I think predominantly 80% of the accounts are in the Western province. Now it's only 57% that is in the Western province, which is a good sign to see that the market is really going out and getting broad based. So we feel that still there's a lot of space, even given cryptos and other forms of asset classes that people are going into. There's still a lot of space and room for new investors to be part of equities.
We'll be right back after this short break.
Alexa, get me some extra GB.
For the first time in Sri Lanka, manage your SLT Mobitel home services with an Alexa device or the app.
Connecting you with the latest tech.
SLT Mobitel, the connection.
Welcome back after the break. Trading at Colombo Stock Exchange ended on positive notes today. The all-share price index gained 5.19 points to close at 13,462.39, and the S&P SL20 gained 13.96 points to close at 4,632.22. The turnover was 5.5 billion rupees and over 205 million shares were traded. Coming up next are forex rates. Well, that's all our news for today. See you tomorrow with State of Business at the usual time. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.